The Greatest Showman is a movie that was released in 2017 that follows the very real life of P.T. Barnum, who opened his first circus that became widely successful that coined him the nickname The Greatest Showman. His circus was so successful because of its differences from other circuses, because of the different kind of acts and oddities that he had for the viewers. But what the movie doesn't really dive into is the dangers of the circus. Are there any, and at what point does representation become exploitation? Through looking at The Greatest Showman, we can see how P.T. Barnum is driven by capitalism with an ableist savior complex to create his circus, and because of this, he exploits the people in society who are already othered. So, to give some backstory on Barnum before we go into the parts of the movie I'll be further analyzing, he is from the lower class, and because of this, growing up was very hard for him, especially once his caretaker dies. So he has to find a way to make money to survive, but not only just to survive, because he does have this desire to do well and be successful as a way to please his future father-in-law, because he thinks that he's kind of trash and not good enough for his daughter because he's not rich like they are. Barnum doesn't have really any other drive than just being successful to prove a point. Fast forward to when Barnum is an adult and he is married and he has kids, he decides to make a huge jump and buy this museum, or buy this space so he can turn it into a museum. It is advertised to the public as somewhere that they can come to see curiosities and oddities and things they've never seen before, but it doesn't do well. He then realizes that the thing that he needs to do well is not just inanimate objects that people could gawk at, but it needs to be people that have physical anomalies, things that make them stand out from others. In this next clip that I'm about to show you, it'll be obvious how Barnum believes the entertainment he desires belongs to those with disabled bodies, and how the abnormal is what he needs for his circus to be successful.
People with money.
What are you looking at, Flopdoodle?
Mr. Barnum.
This venture you propose is risky and
Somewhat bizarre. It's a good bet is what it is, sir. People don't want to admit it, but they're fascinated with the exotic and the macabre. It's why we stare at it.
So this clip is the first one of the movie where we see a disabled person. It is Charles, who is a man with dwarfism, who later joins the circus. And this is Barnum's first time interacting with him, and definitely the first time in the movie that we see him interacting with anybody of a abnormal body. He then, when he goes in and explains that people love to look at the exotic and the macabre, it's what they love to stare at, but they would never admit that, he's referencing Charles in a sense, because we just saw him stare at him as he was walking by. So this is kind of a light bulb moment for him, that I don't only have to have a museum that has inanimate objects that don't do anything. I can have people too, and make those the commodity, the things that people are coming and paying to see. So I want to take a second to make a little side note about some words I will be using throughout this essay, and that is going to be the difference between the word circus and the word freak show. So circus is the broad term that describes an entertainment event where one could see a myriad of things like tightrope walkers, clowns, various animals doing tricks, etc. Whereas a freak show is a specific part of the circus that mainly focuses on people with some sort of physical anomaly that makes them stand out from the normal able-bodied person. Now, there is a long-standing history on freak show and the ethics of it and the laws that surround it. In the article Dangerous Bodies, Freak Shows, Expression, and Exploitation by Brigham A. Fordham, he introduces the idea of what the freak show is and the laws that surround it. He says, in California and Florida, laws prohibiting freak shows have been held unconstitutional, not because the laws were thought to violate the First Amendment, but rather because persons with unusual bodies have a right to be employed, and surprisingly the courts assume freak shows are the only possible job for these people. Now, obviously, this is very problematic, because in America, where there are 50 states, you only have 2, at the time that this article was released, that prohibited freak shows because of the exploitation that came from them. And then you have 48 other states who think these people need jobs, they can't get any other jobs, so they belong at freak shows. To add a little bit more context, around the 1860s, so the late 19th century, which is also the same time that Barnum was creating his circus, ugly laws started to circulate the United States, which basically stated that if you were deformed in any way or had an abnormal body type, you were banned from the public view. But the only exception of this was exhibitions or freak shows. So there are two parts of these controversial laws that I would like to dissect. The first one is the idea of the ableist savior complex that I believe Barnum has. So here you have a man who wants to have a circus or a museum, just a place to show oddities and curiosities, and he's failing at it. But at a time when there are laws coming out that people who have a disabled body or any sort of ailment or anomaly can't be out in the public because it's distressing to look at, he's thinking, oh, but if people will pay to see them in a safe and contained space, that could be beneficial to me. This is the idea that he's saving these people. He's giving them an opportunity to come out from the sheets they have to hide at work or the rooms that they shut themselves in because they're scared to go outside, and saying, hey, I have an idea for you, I have a job. What if you take this on? People may laugh at you, but at least you're going to get paid to do so. The second part of these laws that I would like to dissect is the eugenic stance that they hold. Because these people are not allowed to go out into public, and it is said that the only jobs they can hold are ones of freak shows, of being a part of a community that looks like you. It's eugenic in the stance of you put all these people into one group where you have control over them and you get to monitor them and you know what they're going to do. They have to listen to you if they want to keep their job. The idea that these people who have bodies that are different from the normal body type or the standard of beauty that we have, by putting them in an area that can be controlled, manipulated, and monitored, you're able to monitor the things that they want to do, like repopulate. And I think that's definitely something that's in these laws that is not specifically stated. If you can't let them go outside and they have to be away from the public view, how are they going to find someone that will conceive with them to contribute to the damaging part of society that they already contribute to? In this next clip I'm going to show you from the movie, we see the conversation that takes place between Barnum and Charles and how he's asking him to come join the circus.
P.T. Barnum, at your service. I am putting together a show, and I need a star.
You want people to laugh at me?
Well, they're laughing anyway, kids, so might as well get paid.
This scene just oozes capitalism and shows us the real motive behind what Barnum does. You can clearly tell from watching this scene that Charles is insecure about his disability and that he has been a victim of some sort of bullying or mockery, because he knows that where he goes, people will laugh at him, and if he gets up on a stage, at that point, he's going to be exploited for the things that already happened to him. Barnum doesn't care about these concerns that Charles is bringing to him. Oh, he's going to be laughed at? You'll be getting paid, so why does that matter? But Barnum, because he's able-bodied and no one is attacking him for being different, doesn't realize how damaging that can be, especially when he tells him, you should get over it, basically, because you'll be making money. Who cares if you're the butt of the joke, as long as you provide your part in this stream of capitalism. Now, the next clip I'm going to show is actually from a different movie. It is from Freaks from 1932, and I want to show this clip because I think there is some of it that is echoed in the clip that we just saw between Charles and Barnum that I think is important to compare.
Oh, monsieur, there must be a law in France to smother such things at birth. Or lock 'em up. All right, John. If there's anything like you say on my ground, we'll have it removed. I say, 1, 2, 3. Go away, all of you. Don't you know trespassing the same as stealing?
Oh, I'm sorry, monsieur. I am Madame Petralini. These children are in my circus.
Children? They're monsters. Oh, your circus. I understand.
So you...
I wanted to bring in this clip because it is very similar to the one from The Greatest Showman because of the theme of money and monetary value that is shared between them. So in this clip that we just saw, we have the one man who is saying, basically anybody who is born disabled should be smothered at birth, and the other guy is saying, yeah, if I see anything like that on my grounds, I'll kick them out, they'll be gone, whatever. And then they actually do see these people that are different, that have these physical abnormalities, and when they go up to Madame Tetralini, who's the owner of the circus, and explains, oh, these are the acts in my circus, I take them out to play, they're like, oh, I understand, because they're saying at the beginning that these people had no value to life, they were damaging to life, but because they're fulfilling a role that they are monetary and a commodity, and they are providing a chance for Madame Tetralini and anyone who's part of her circus to make more money, that's when they decide that, oh, these people are worth life and worth being here with Madame Tetralini and the other able-bodied people. This is similar to the scene that we saw with The Greatest Showman between Charles and Barnum, because although not as extreme, it does show us that Barnum only cares about Charles and getting him a part of the circus because he could bring him money. To switch gears just a little bit, in Alison Kafer's introduction to her feminist queer crypt book, she states, as feminist theorists have long noted, there is no mention of the body that is not a further articulation of a very particular body. What she is mentioning here is that the body is a political playground, and that we as a society expect people to look a certain way and fit into a certain mold, and we view those who uphold that idea as more valuable and better to society than those that differ. I wanted to bring in this theory because I think it's important to look at how Barnum is the showman. He's the top of the hierarchy. He's a white man, he's able-bodied, and he's going around looking for people that are different from him, that society will look down on, and giving them a place to feel comfortable and be exploited, basically. But he doesn't want to admit that because he thinks what he's doing is saving them. In this next clip from the movie, he is putting up posters as a way to get people's attention to come and audition for his circus.
Hey, you looking for freaks? I know where you can find one of them.
Really?
I hate this scene, if I'm being completely honest, because this is the first time when Barnum really describes these people, even though he's not the one that's saying it. He's basically describing them as freaks, and that is what he was looking for. Before, he would say, and even on his posters, he was looking for unique persons or curiosities, whatever that entailed. But then when this guy says he knows a freak and he knows where he can find them, Barnum is excited about the idea, and he knows that labeling his circus as a freak show is what will raise his attraction rate, because at the end of the day, that's what he cares about, is the money and the people that come to see it, rather than the actual people he is seeking out for his circus. Not only that, but when the guy says he knows where these freaks are, obviously these are going to be places that these people feel safe. It's where they're able to find work, where they can't be out in the public because of the ugly laws. It's at their homes. It's just anywhere they view as a space that is accepting of them. And now Barnum is going to invade these spaces and say to these people, hey, you're hiding, but what if you didn't have to hide? What if what you did had purpose? And after Barnum puts up advertisements from his show, he starts getting people who audition or try out to be a part of the circus, where it's mainly just meeting with him and explaining what makes you different. In the montage that I just showed, we see how Barnum is advertising the new acts in his circus to the public. A big theme that we are seeing on these posters is that none of them have their real names. They are all stripped down to Dog Boy or the Irish Giant, who's not even Irish, Tattoo Man, World's Heaviest Man. Charles' name in the circus is General Tom Thumb. So none of these people have agency over who they are and what they bring to the circus because they are being stripped from their real identities by losing their names. Coincidentally, the only people that have their names on a poster are the only non-freaks in the circus, who are the trapeze artists and NWD. This next scene is really the only physically violent scene we see in the film, taking place between the entertainers in the freak show versus the rioters that hate the idea of the freak show.
That's enough! Balls up! Inside, all right. Look at them all! We don't want you coming! Attention, freaks! Your master's calling! That's quite enough, sir.
This scene, to me, solidifies truly what the performers or entertainers mean to Barnum, because he doesn't step in. And because of that, it's easy to see that he doesn't care about them. They don't mean anything to him. They are just money makers. And because of the fact that he doesn't step in, and the only thing that he does to protest this violence that is happening to them is by saying, "That's quite enough, sir," to the guy. He doesn't step in any way. He doesn't throw a punch, an insult, anything. He just tells the entertainers to get back inside, as if it's their fault and they should have stayed inside and these violences wouldn't have occurred to them. This scene also really reaffirms the idea that he has a savior complex, because at the beginning of the movie, we know that he's saving these people by giving them a purpose and a job and a way to exist in society, and now here he is genuinely saving them from violence, but he's not doing anything. He's telling them to get inside, and then they do, which stops the violence, but he thinks that everything he does, he can do the smallest bit of it, and that will be enough. This next scene is from the part of the movie after Jenny Lind, the able-bodied singer, performs under Barnum's advertising. And at the end, when they are all mingling, just having drinks, the other performers, part of the circus, want to come in and join and party and celebrate with everyone. And Barnum doesn't even allow one of them to get in the door.
What are you doing here? You got a show in an hour, okay?
It's enough time for us to have at least 3 drinks, right? Come on.
No. Letty.
What?
It's very crowded in here, okay? And I can't have you mingling. Guys, who's going to pay admission if you're out there for all the world to see, okay? Have a great show.
Wait.
Ladies and gentlemen, a toast. Jenny, America may not know it yet, but they are going to love you.
This scene is such a huge turning point for the performers, because I think this is the first time that they really realize what Barnum's motives are, and that he never wanted to build a community or have these people who look different in his show as a way to represent them and show the different types of bodies and forms that people have. They're realizing now that it was all just a game, a way for him to get money, a way for them to trust him so he can take advantage of them. And it's a very powerful scene, and you can see it just on the expressions that they wear once he closes the door, and then you hear him start saying, "Oh, let's raise a toast." You can see how genuinely hurt they all are. They all realize that they're different, but they thought that they were being taken in by someone who saw past those differences and wanted to celebrate them. But now they're discovering they were just being exploited by. The last scene of this movie that I want to show is the one where Barnum is on stage with Jenny Lind as flowers are being thrown at her, and it cuts to a scene where the performers are at the circus and have things like bottles and food being thrown at them. The reason I wanted to show this scene is because it really shows the capitalistic part of Barnum's personality perfectly. At the end of the day, Barnum is going to be where the profit is. At the beginning, that was at the circus with the freak show that he could make money off of the abnormal. And at the end, it was with Jenny, who was able-bodied, that people wanted to see because she was beautiful and had a beautiful voice. He promised these people a sense to feel purpose, that they were beautiful, that even though they were different, they would be accepted, they would have a family and build a community. And while, yes, they did, and they did meet people who were like them and felt safe and secure that way, Barnum completely took advantage of these people by telling them a lie and only being by them when they can provide the most profit to him. We know what his true colors are. He never intended for this to be a space that people could come and feel safe and be different and not care because everyone's different and beautiful in their own way. He wanted it as a space that people could come to pay money to see these people that they don't want to see in public. To wrap up, I would like to revisit the question I stated at the beginning of this essay. That was, when does representation become exploitation? And I think in the terms of this movie and who Barnum is, there was no representation to begin with. His main focus was always money and always success. And when he was able to do it in his way, he decided to go out and find people that could make him successful. I think in terms of representation to exploitation, there is a fine line, because you can very easily have any space that can represent people of a smaller group and do it in a way that is purposeful and makes everyone involved feel involved. But you can quickly go into exploitation once you lose the humanity of it all. And once, like in Barnum's case, you cross a line of prioritizing money over feelings and profit over safety, you've reached the point of exploitation that you can't come back from.